Thanksgiving night, 2019. Minneapolis police rush to a home on James Avenue North after reports of a shooting. When officers step inside, they find a 2-year-old girl standing alone in the dining room. They ask her a simple question, "Where's your mother?" The little girl points toward the floor and says, "My mother is on the floor." What they discovered next was every parent's worst nightmare. 27-year-old Raven Gant lay dying in the doorway, shot in the back. Her ex-boyfriend Randall Watkins, the father of that little girl, was still in the house. But here's what makes this case even more disturbing. Raven didn't come here by accident. She was lured. And what started as a simple request to pick up clothes ended in cold-blooded murder. Before we get into this heartbreaking case, if you care about true crime and want to see justice for victims like Raven, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And drop a comment telling us what state or country you're watching from. Let's build this community together. To understand the tragedy of what happened, you need to know who Raven Gant really was, not just as a victim, but as a person. Raven was 27 years old and living in Minneapolis. She worked as an accounts manager at the Union Depot Hotel. Her mother, Lakeshia Gant, described her daughter as a super hard worker who took pride in everything she did. Raven didn't just show up to work, she gave it her all. But Raven was so much more than her job. Her close friend, Jakara Hallman, remembered her as someone who lit up every room she walked into. I would describe Raven as fun, loving. The life of the room, probably the most fashionable in the room, Jakara said. Raven had style, she had energy, she had a way of making people feel special. Her brother, Ronald Gant III, called her a beautiful light. He said if you went to her funeral, you could see how many lives she touched. The church was packed. She was good, Ronald said. If she had it, she would give it to you. Raven was extremely close to her family, especially her parents. Ronald joked that she was the type of person who would have slept in their bed until she was 25. That's how tight they were. But perhaps Raven's most important role was being a mother. She had a 2-year-old daughter, known by her initials JJ, and she loved that little girl with everything she had. Lakeshia said, "I want JJ to know that she had an awesome mom who loved her very much, who loved her very, very much." JJ was Raven's world, and it was for JJ that Raven was trying to build a better, safer life. But what her family didn't fully know was that danger was closer than they thought. Raven's relationship with Randall Watkins, JJ's father, was marked by violence and control. But for a long time, her family had no idea how bad things really were. "I had no idea of all of this that was going on because of the lengths that my sister was going through to protect this man," Ronald Gant III admitted. This happens more often than you'd think. Victims hide the abuse out of shame, fear, or misplaced loyalty to the person hurting them. But eventually, the truth became impossible to hide. About 2 years before her death, Raven showed up to a family dinner, bloody and all beat up. That was the first time her family realized she was being abused. According to court documents, Watkins had beaten Raven so badly that she had 2 black eyes and other serious injuries. When Raven's father tried to confront Watkins about what he'd done to his daughter, Watkins responded with shocking violence. He pulled out a gun and shot Raven's father in the back as he was about to drive away. Thankfully, her father survived, but the message was clear. Randall Watkins was dangerous, armed, and willing to kill, and this wasn't Watkins' first time being violent. In fact, he had a prior murder conviction from Illinois back in 1995. During an argument over a small amount of money, Watkins shot his friend in the back of the leg and in the head, killing him. He served time for that murder, yet somehow years later he was free, and once again had access to a gun. Despite the growing danger, Raven did what many experts recommend. She left. By late 2019, Raven and JJ had moved out of Watkins' home. She was trying to start over and build a life free from his control. But Watkins wasn't done controlling her. After Raven moved out, he took all of her clothes and all of JJ's clothes and refused to give them back. This is a classic control tactic, taking away basic needs to maintain power over someone even after they've left. And here's the terrifying truth. Leaving an abuser is often the most dangerous time for a victim. Raven was about to learn that the hard way. Domestic violence affects millions of people, and stories like Raven's remind us why we can't stay silent. If this case is hitting home for you, show your support by hitting that like button. And I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know ever experienced a situation like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters. Thanksgiving Day, 2019. A day meant for gratitude, family, and coming together. But for Raven Gant, this holiday would become her last day alive. Earlier that day, Watkins called Raven. He told her she could come to the house at 9:30 p.m. and he would give back all of her stuff, her clothes, JJ's clothes, everything he'd been holding over her head. For Raven, this probably seemed like a simple exchange. Get the belongings, leave, and finally move on with her life. So she went. She arrived at the house on James Avenue North, likely hoping this would be quick and painless. But once she was inside, everything changed. We don't know exactly what happened in those first few minutes. What we do know is that at 10:08 p.m., Raven called her father. Her voice was filled with fear. She told him, "He won't let me out of the house." Think about those words for a moment. She was trapped. The man who had beaten her, who had shot her father, who had a history of murder, now had her locked inside his home. Her father heard the desperation in her voice. But before he could get there, before anyone could help, it was too late. Less than an hour later, police received a 911 call. There had been a shooting. What happened in those final minutes inside that house? The answer is as tragic as it is horrifying. When police arrived at the house on James Avenue North, what started as a report of a domestic dispute had already turned into something far worse, a shooting. Randall Watkins was standing at the door when officers got there. He was arrested immediately. But inside the house, police found something that would haunt them forever. A 2-year-old girl was standing in the dining room, alone. The officers looked at her and asked a simple question. "Where's your mother?" The little girl pointed toward the floor and said, "My mother is on the floor." Following her direction, police found Raven Gant lying on her back in the doorway between the kitchen and dining room. She had been shot once in the left back. That detail is important. She was shot in the back. She wasn't facing him. She was trying to get away. She was trying to escape. Paramedics rushed Raven to North Memorial Medical Center, but it was too late. At 11 p.m., just an hour after she called her father for help, Raven Gant was pronounced dead. She was only 27 years old. But here's the part that makes this case even more heartbreaking. JJ was there. She saw everything. That little girl watched her father shoot her mother. She watched her mother fall to the floor. She stood in that dining room, surrounded by the worst moment of her life. And when police asked where her mom was, all she could do was point. A 2-year-old child witnessed her own mother's murder. And the person who pulled the trigger? Her father. The man who was supposed to protect her. This wasn't just a murder, it was a complete destruction of a family. And the trauma JJ would carry from that night would last a lifetime. Randall Watkins was charged with 3 counts: intentional second-degree murder, unintentional second-degree murder, and being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm. That last charge is crucial. Watkins was a convicted felon with a prior murder conviction. By law, he was not allowed to own or even touch a gun, yet somehow he had one. and he used it to kill Raven. The trial began in October 2020 and lasted 2 weeks. On October 23rd, the jury reached their verdict. Guilty on all 3 counts. Then came sentencing day, November 6, 2020. Randall Watkins was sentenced to 40 years in prison, the maximum sentence allowed under Minnesota law. Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman made a statement after the sentencing. He said, "The attorneys on this case did a great job in obtaining the maximum sentence possible for Mr. Watkins, who so tragically shot and killed Raven Gant, the mother of their child, on Thanksgiving a year ago. What makes this all the more devastating is that their child was present when her mother was killed. Domestic violence cases like these are heartbreaking, and we hope the family of Ms. Gant can find solace now that Mr. Watkins has been sentenced and the case has concluded." During the sentencing hearing, Raven's father gave a victim impact statement that broke everyone's heart. He talked about how the trauma has affected JJ. He said, "The memory is so vivid in her mind. She talks about it with other kids. It just comes up. My daddy killed my mom. She sees an ambulance. She thinks her mom is in an ambulance. She sees police. She's just terrified by it." The judge also spoke about JJ, saying she lost both her parents, and she saw her dad kill her mom, and she's got to live with that forever. Raven's mother, Lakesha, said the family was thankful for the outcome today and wished that none of this had to happen. In the wake of this tragedy, Raven's family announced plans to create a foundation called Be Their Voice, designed to help women escape domestic violence and find safety. Justice was served, but no prison sentence can bring Raven back, and no amount of time can erase what JJ witnessed that night. Raven's death wasn't inevitable. There were warning signs. There were moments when things could have gone differently. So what can we learn from her story? Lesson 1. Take domestic violence seriously from the very first sign. When Raven showed up to that family dinner, bloody and all beat up, that wasn't just a relationship problem. Those were red flags. Physical injuries, controlling behavior, isolation. These are not normal. If someone you love is being hurt, step in early and offer real help. Lesson 2. Leaving is the most dangerous time. Research shows that victims are at the highest risk of being killed when they leave or try to leave an abusive partner. Raven had moved out. She was trying to start over. But Watkins lured her back with the promise of returning her belongings. If you're helping someone leave an abusive relationship, safety planning is critical. This means having police present during exchanges, meeting in public places, and never going back alone. Lesson 3. Guns make domestic violence deadly. When an abuser has access to a gun, the risk of death increases by 500%. Watkins was a convicted murderer who was legally banned from owning a firearm, yet he had one. We need stronger enforcement of laws that require abusers to surrender their weapons. Lesson 4. Believe and support victims. Ronald Gant said he had no idea how bad things were because Raven was protecting Watkins. Victims often hide the abuse. If you suspect someone is being hurt, ask them directly. Listen without judgment. Connect them with help. Lesson 5. Know the resources. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, reach out for help. In the U.S., the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-7999-7233. You can also text START to 88788 or chat online at thehotline.org. This isn't just Raven's family's responsibility. It's all of ours. We have to speak up. We have to act. Because silence can be deadly. Raven Gant was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a mother. She was hardworking, stylish, generous, and loved by everyone who knew her. She tried to escape. She tried to protect herself and her daughter, but the system failed her. Her story can't just be another tragic headline. It has to be a catalyst for change. If Raven's story moved you, please share this video to raise awareness about domestic violence. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a case where we seek truth and justice. And tell me in the comments, what do you think needs to change to prevent tragedies like this? Let's keep this conversation going. Raven's family created the Be Their Voice Foundation to help other women escape dangerous situations. Let's honor Raven by making sure her story saves lives. Rest in peace, Raven Gant. Your light will never be forgotten. If you or someone you know needs help, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. You are not alone.